basic multiplication in algebra. You have the very first question is 2 bracket x. Well, if you've 2 tens, you've 20. If you've 2 5s, you've 10. So 2 x's means just whatever x is, you'll multiply it by 2. So we can leave the bracket as it is, or maybe we get a little bit lazy about it and we just write it as 2x. The next one is minus 3 times a. Again, you can pretend a is a number to start off with until you get the idea that we just get whatever a is, whatever that number is, and we'll multiply it by minus 3. There's nothing we can do with that. Part 3, we have 13 times 2b's. So if we've 13 2b's, 13 by 2 is 26 by b. We've 26 b's. So it's saying we've 13 of these, which means altogether we've 26 of them. And that's just basic, 13 by 2 by b. I guess just be careful when you're doing your questions that your 6's and your b's don't look too alike. I know sometimes mine do. It's just to be clear to yourself when you're doing a question. Part 4, we had minus 11 times minus 5y. So if you had 11 times 5, you'd have 55. But we have a minus 11 times a minus 5 times a y. So we have a minus 11 times a minus 5. That gives me plus 55 times a y. So I always just work with what I can do. Brackets mean multiply. So I have 11 times 5, okay, 55. I've been doing that since primary school. But that's not exactly what I have. I have minus 11 times minus 5. So I could work that out. And actually I have minus 11 times minus 5y. So I have 55 y's. Next one, we have 7 times 4x. So again, we have 4x and we have to multiply by 7, or we have 7 of them. 7 4s are 28 x. We just multiply what we can. In addition and subtraction in algebra, we're very, very particular. We'll only add and subtract things that are the same. Otherwise, we'll leave them. But in multiplication, we're going to try and multiply what we can. So I know how to do that. So I end up with 28 times x. And the next bit, we had 4 times minus 7b. Well, if you'd 4 times 7, you'd have 28. Again, I know all that from primary school. 4 times minus 7. Well, what happens when you multiply a plus by a minus? We have minus 28. So we have 4 times minus 7 times b, which is minus 28b. You can always leave your bracket if you'd like, but I'm too lazy to do that. I'm always going to write it as short as possible. As long as I understand what it means. I will write things, like even today I was writing things with my 5th years in a certain way, because I prefer writing it until I get to grips with what I'm doing. Until it becomes extremely familiar to me, I will leave the bracket in. You have to do that for yourself as well, if you need to. And when you're ready, you'll eventually stop writing the brackets, because you'll just get a bit too lazy about it, because you know what it means. But don't drop it before that. 6 times minus 3y. Okay, so if we had 6 times 3, we'd have 18. So we have 6 times minus 3, minus 18 times a y. So we have minus 18 y's. And minus 2 times a minus 3y. Well, if I had 2 by 3, I'd have 6. I have a minus 2 by a minus 3, which gives me 6. Like a minus by a minus, it's a plus when I'm multiplying them. And 6y. I have a minus 2 times a minus 3y. Sorry, that's what I've done. 4 times 5x squared. Now, this might seem a little bit trickier, but it's not too bad. Now, if we look, this is really important. The square is only on the x. So The square is only on the x, so we have an x squared and we multiplied it by 5. That's what that says. Be very clear on that. If I wanted it to say something else, I'd write it differently. I can show you that at some stage. But right now, what it says is, I had a missing number and I squared it, and then I multiplied it by 5. And now I want to multiply that by 4, which means I have 20 x squareds. If I have 5x squareds and then I want to multiply that by 4, well then that's 20 of them. And then next one we have a minus 2 times 8a cubed. Well, if I had 2 times 8, I'd have 16. And again, remember what this says. It says a cubed times an 8. And then we want to multiply that by a minus 2. Well, I had 8 of them. I want to multiply by 2, I'd have 16. If I want to multiply by minus 2, I'd have minus 16 of those things, 8 cubes. Minus 16, 8 cubed. And 2 more left. We have minus 1 times minus 3y to the power 4. Again, just be really clear on what that says. It's a y to the power 4 multiplied by a minus 3, and then we want to multiply that by a minus 1. Well, minus by minus is plus. 3 by 1 is 3, so I have 3y to the power 4. And then the last one, I have 0 times a 2x cubed. 0 times anything is 0. Like 0 times 5, 0. 0 times 20, 0. 0 times a million, 0. So it doesn't matter what I multiplied 0 by. My very last one is 0.